Hi, and welcome to this live reading from September Breeze, a Cinnamon Bay Romance Book 2 by Nikki, Lynn, Barrett, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. You told me I'd have a place to stay, Tess Dixon complained to Chandler Reese, the man who was supposed to set everything up for her once she arrived in Cinnamon Bay, North Carolina. She'd been driving for hours, and the last thing she wanted or expected was to be greeted with this rather frustrating news. Tess was well aware most eyes were on her at the moment. She'd spoken too loud, and the customers in Brewed with a View, the coastal town's busy coffee shop, wanted to know every detail of her conversation. She needed to keep her frustration at bay, but if she already didn't have a place to stay, what else would go wrong? She'd passed up several different opportunities to take this songwriting gig on the set of an upcoming movie, Restless. She'd be here a few months, at least. Come to find out, Chandler had screwed up and never set up living arrangements. Tess pegged him for a disorganized man, but she decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. Wrong move. She should have made her own arrangements, but it was so much easier to let someone else handle it so that she didn't have to delve into too many details about her history when seeking temporary residence. What the hell was she supposed to do now? Live in her blasted car? This opportunity meant everything. It was already nerve-wracking enough that she still had to find a job on top of this writing gig. The movie kept her in one place longer than she typically stayed around, but hello, who would be crazy enough to turn down this gig? Not her. The money would come in handy. They were being paid to be there, but once the songs and the movie itself were done, royalties could be big. Some would call her crazy and impulsive, and right now that seemed to catch up with her when everything didn't work out in her favor. I'll get on that right now, he promised. I'll call you back with details. Yeah, that'd be great. Tess hung up and rolled her eyes. Ugh. An elderly woman approached her with a smile. Her obviously dyed red hair drew her attention first, but if she hadn't seen her, Tess would easily hear her. She wore so many bracelets. Collection? Obsession? Interesting. Hello there. Never seen you here before. Are you new in town? Tess nodded. I am. I'll be in town for a little while. With no place to stay, I take it. She frowned, so of course everyone heard. Great. I didn't mean to pry. Bracelets jingled when she held out her hand, clutching something. If you're looking for a job, you may be interested in this one. It's a nanny position. I do feel for this family. Maybe you can help. Tess thanked her, and before she could get anything else in, the woman disappeared. No name introduction. Nothing. Quirky lady for sure, but the paper now on the table in front of her definitely held her attention. Well, that's a bit odd. Tess shrugged and picked up the paper. A few ads caught her attention. She scanned it, looking for the specific nanny ad. Her eyes narrowed when she came across an ad that didn't sound right. Wanted. 1, fill-in mom and someone to take care of our dad, too. Please help. Our daddy is Brian, and he's very nice. He's a teacher, loves us a lot, and is struggling. Maybe if we help find a mom for us and someone to help keep him from being lonely, things will be better. With love, Tatum and Alice Taylor. A photo had been included. Their smiles were genuine. Brian was a good-looking man with dark hair, but there was an unmistakable pain in his gorgeous eyes. The nanny ad was nowhere to be found. She kept going back to this ad placed by the girls. Why would they do that? What got her the most was how she wanted to drive by the address and get a look at the house. Something called to her. It wouldn't leave her alone. Did the bracelet lady lie and want her to see this particular ad, or was she mistaken about the nanny ad being in here? Did it really matter? Why am I debating driving there to see what the story is? Tess knew the answer. Curiosity. The songwriter in her wanted more. No, forget adding the songwriter part. General curiosity wanted more. The ad intrigued her, taunted her, filled her head with images. The bracelet lady said she'd felt for the family. Was she one of those town matchmakers trying to guide people together? What a sweet gesture. Pushy, but sweet. Perfect songwriting material. While she worked on tunes for the movie, she could find inspiration right here in Cinnamon Bay, but it didn't mean she needed to give in and drive by the address. Yeah, right. She knew better. Tess finished her coffee, tossed her plate, which had held her sweet treats, now eaten, in the trash, and made a dash for her car. Her instincts screamed to go check this out. As she stepped out, Tess overheard someone say, a little too loud, "Mission accomplished. If we have to behave about the Cafe Amour, then we've got the next best thing." Then laughter. "Bertie, what did you do?" Another voice, a younger woman's, scolded. Tess had no doubt she'd landed in the perfect little town. Okay, maybe she wouldn't mind staying here a little longer, even if she typically didn't stick around to get attached. As much as she kind of wanted to stick around the coffee shop to find out what that was all about, she had her own mission to accomplish, satisfying a curiosity itch. Hooray for Google Maps! Tess didn't have to ask anyone about the address. Why she continued to make her way to the house, she didn't know. Once she had an idea in her head, there was no backing down. Just a peek. Oh, a way to satisfy her curiosity. The image of the girls filled her head. It made Tess wonder. And why would Bracelet Lady hand her that specific ad and say it was for a nanny job? The house sat on a large spread of lush green land. A 2-story with what looked like guest quarters in the backyard. A few pine and cypress trees in the front, with plenty of toys and a playground scattered about the yard. The house seemed homey enough. The front porch held her attention. A giant wraparound with potted plants everywhere. Tess climbed out of the car to get a better look. Just a peek. A simple glimpse. Except the front door opened. Caught! The man in the photo in her hand glanced her way with curious eyes. Her mouth went dry. This she hadn't expected, and he was so damn good looking in person. The photo didn't do him any justice. Clad in a pair of blue jeans and a plaid button-down shirt, he oozed sexiness. "Can I help you?" he asked, heading down the walkway toward her. She clutched the ad in her hand. What the hell did she say now? Tess hadn't expected to bump into him, so much for just looking. She held up the paper, her stomach all full of nerves. "I'm here about the ad." Great. As if that would make this whole thing any better. "Oh, good! So it's being seen after all." "I'd say so." Tess studied him. Wait, so he knew about this? Confusion filled her. The man rubbed his temples. "I'm Brian Taylor. Come on in and we'll discuss the ad." "Tess Dixon." They shook hands and she followed Brian into the house. "My girls aren't home. They're with my sister, but if this interview goes well, we can meet them soon." Concern overtook her. Okay, this was going too far. What in the world was happening here? Look, Mr. Taylor, how could he actually be interviewing for this ad? What the hell had she just walked into? "Do you have a resume?" "Experience with children." She stopped in her tracks, dumbfounded. Was he serious right now? "Yes, I'm the oldest of 5, and I grew up having to care for my siblings when my father was sick." Which had been often. Then came the caring for her father part, which turned into a whole new issue. But that wouldn't be and couldn't be divulged. "I've also taken care of other children in recent years." And they too hadn't learned about her past. No one could. He faced her and nodded. "My girls, they've had their struggles over the last few years." "I see." She debated on her next move. Holding the ad up again, Tess tried to get another word in. "Mr. Taylor?" "Brian, please." He smiled. Tess melted. What a smile. "Okay, Brian." "Are you new in town?" "I am. Arrived today, actually." He reeled back, eyes wide. "Oh?" "Yes, I'm working with movie producers on a music soundtrack, and I get to stick around on set. But while I'm here, it would be nice to get another job that will pay more immediately." "A songwriter?" His brows rose. "And you're just passing through?" "Yes, the movie is being made not too far out of town. Look, Mr. Taylor, I'm not here to apply for the position. Not here to apply for it? Then why are you here?" Question filled his eyes. I was down at Brood with a View, where an older woman with a ton of bracelets gave me this. She told me it was a nanny position, but when I read the ad, it had nothing to do with a nanny job. It was a want ad for a stand-in mom. I felt the need to come here and see what's going on. I told myself just to peek at the house, then you came out, and here we are. She held it out to him, and Brian snatched it from her hands. As he read on, he shook his head. Unbelievable, he grunted. I love those three, but this time they went too far. Anger laced his tone. Those three? There's only 2 girls' names listed. Confusion clung to her voice. So there were 2 different ads? Huh? Brian met her gaze. This isn't the ad I've been referring to. I'm afraid there's been a mix-up. Seems our local matchmakers are at it again, and they've allowed my girls to get sucked in. I'm not looking for a wife and stand-in mother, Tess. Embarrassment and shock hit her all at once. I'm utterly confused right now. Brian sighed, but amusement filled his eyes. He walked away to a nearby table and picked something up. Here, he thrust another paper at her. This is the correct ad. This is the one I'm referring to. Tess read on. Indeed, he'd placed a real wanted ad for a nanny. I'm so sorry for coming over here, insinuating and guessing things. He laughed. This ad is old, too. I immediately had them remove it, but apparently the dear old ladies had a few hidden copies left. Does that mean you aren't interested in the position? Because I'm getting downright desperate here. If you sit down, I'll offer you a cold beverage and discuss the job. The guest quarters on the property would be included. Light bulb. A perfect fix to Chandler's screw-up. Maybe this hadn't turned out so horrible after all. I don't have a resume on me since I obviously wasn't expecting this, but I can give you references and everything. I do hope you know this won't be permanent. I'll be here a few months and then I'll be moving on. Better to get it all out now. She couldn't do permanent. A few months will help me find another solution, Brian said. Where will you go after this? She shrugged. That depends on things. He took a long, hard look at her, his eyes trying to search deeper and dig for more. I swear, I'm not on the run. I just like to travel. I'm not one to plant roots. Partial truth. She was on the run from the pain in her heart, but she wasn't dangerous and wasn't running from anything that would end up harming anyone. She just could never show her face at home again. Not after how no one believed her. How they believed him and all of his lies. Tess kept her composure. Every time she thought of the situation, emotion slammed her. Right now wasn't the time to allow that. Later, when she was on her own and could pen her feelings into words that would make great lyrics, she could fall apart. But not right now. Not when she had a chance to pick up a temporary job. Everything was always temporary. Brian picked up good vibes from Tess. She had a quirky way about her, but overall he liked her. He questioned what brought her here when she'd seen the other ad, but regardless, she seemed to be a quality candidate to fill in as a nanny, since the girls had once again run off their last one. They sat across from each other at the dining room table. So Tatum is 12 and Alice is 9. They're both great kids, but they aren't without their troubles. This would be the time that could possibly scare off Tess. Most other applicants felt they weren't equipped to deal with issues. The few who did never lasted long. I've dealt with my fair share of trouble, Tess replied with a smile. She was so easygoing and gorgeous, too. Hazel eyes that could pierce right into your soul, dirty blonde hair which she'd pulled up in a messy bun. He couldn't guess her age by looking at her. She seemed younger than his own 36 years, but he sensed an old soul, too. Tatum doesn't talk, he began. Doesn't talk? Yes, it's selective muteness. May I ask why? Brian's throat grew dry. The girls witnessed their mother's death 4 years ago. Her face crumpled. Brian, I am so sorry. He cleared his throat, unable to speak at the moment. Finally, words formed. Thank you. Sometimes she's very closed off and won't communicate in any way, shape, or form. We've had psychologists and psychiatrists and in and out, but when it comes down to it, most say she'll speak when she's ready. Tess nodded in understanding. Okay. And Alice? Alice can be the wild child. Her moods will change quickly. One minute she'll warm up to you, the next you're her worst enemy. It goes for anyone. She's a little rough around the edges and has found herself in trouble at school. When Tess didn't speak, Brian continued. I'd need you to get them off to school in the morning, then your days would be free until they come home. I'm usually home at 5 or so. And what do you do? I'm a teacher, and I also coach sports. Right now it's basketball. As for teaching, 8th grade math. She smiled. Teacher. That's awesome. We only have one school, which both girls attend and I work at, but with after-school sports, I don't want them to have to hang around with me if they don't want to, so it's easier to have someone here at home who can pick up and drop off at school since the hours are different. Weekends would be off unless I ask otherwise. Would these hours work with your schedule? I think I can work with them. I don't always need to be on set, but there may be days I do need to go. I'm in the background as the songwriter, but I have the option to see some of the scenes unfold. It'll help with writing several songs for the soundtrack. What a neat opportunity. Have any of your songs hit the radio airwaves? Her smile grew. I have a few.